Today I want to do a little talk about the Mega Live unit. Now, Humminbird makes a fantastic state-of-the-art, fish finder, depth sounder combination, and it's called Mega Live. And it's such a cool system. You can see the fish feeding, you can see them actually, if you get it dialed in just right, which I'm going to show you today, you can actually see them refuse or take your fly if you have the settings just dialed in. So these are the settings you're definitely going to want. Hey, if you want to subscribe to more of our stuff, definitely subscribe down below. We've got lots of fly tying, lots of new shows coming up to show everybody, and we're going to have lots of these pro tips coming up. How to use a Mega Live, how to use certain fly rods, a lot of equipment type setups. So anyways, let's get into it. I'm going to show everybody my ideal settings for the Mega Live unit. Now these ones work in all the lakes we fish. It's been phenomenal. Anywhere from 6 feet down to 60 feet. So very good setup. So let's get to it. So you can see on my screen here, I'm going to show everybody the screen. You can see the fish moving on here. There's a depth. So I'm at about 27 feet and I've got fish moving, and you can see them here. Now the ideal settings, to get these so you can see the fish moving and what depth they're at. You can see these guys are at 20 feet. It's pretty cool. So all you do is go into your menu and you're in the Mega Live unit. So I'm going to start right at the top. So Mega Live pinging I have on so that it's running. Mega Live mode is forward right now. So you've got different options. You've got forward, landscape, and down, depending on how you have your system set up. So I've got mine set up right now on forward, so you tilt the head so it's on forward looking. So it's scanning out. It's scanning out 60 feet and down the depth. And I always like to dial it in, right, so it's at the right depth. So we go back to our settings here. So we got that on forward mode. Forward display mode I've got on auto. This is good. You got different options. You got 20, 30, and 40 degree. I just put in auto so that it senses the best way to look, which is really good. Then when we go to auto sensitivity, contrast is on. If you take it off, I found that it gets a lot of just a lot more noise. You'll see a lot more noise in the picture. So if you turn it on, you eliminate a lot of the noise. Auto sensitivity offset. Now these are the two biggest ones I use. So I use the auto sensitivity offset and the auto contrast offset. So I'll get back to these in a minute, these two. Dynamic contrast I liked on balanced. You can have it on low and high, but balanced really seems to be the best, again, the best fit for what we're doing, just to give me a real nice picture of what's going on. Now forward range, you can go all the way, you can go way out to 150 feet plus, but I found that the further out you go, the more you lose. You don't lose, or you lose a lot of the clarity. So I like to always be around, anywhere from 50 to 60 feet. Gives me a really good idea. And then of course the downrange, I like to move this so I can just see the bottom. So now there's the bottom, 30 feet. So now I can just see the bottom range, and then I can see fish on the bottom moving, and I can also see where they're moving in the column. So again, I never put this on auto. I always like to adjust my two ranges, my forward range and my down range. Again, forward range, really ideal at 60, 50 to 60, and down range, you want to dial it so you can see the bottom, see the fish on the bottom, and fish moving around, which is really good. Now, Mega Live colors. This one is key. The Mega Live color, I found 8 is the best. We've gone, we've tried 9, we've tried them all. 10, all these crazy colors. You've got so many different palettes. But I was working with Brian Chan, and we worked it through. And this one here, Mega Live color 8, is the best palette. Look at those fish. You can see them all moving down there. Gives you a very clear picture. Look at this guy moving up. It's actually just a fantastic color to see. It's all green, and when the big fish show up, they're all in red. Now persistence I like off. If you turn it on, low or medium, it's not bad. It it filters down your picture a little bit. So I really like it when it's off. The persistence is off. And then you've got the option to record your Mega Live, and now those are all your main settings. Now let's get back to the two main ones. Now the two main ones, auto sensitivity offset and auto contrast offset. So I found that in this depth, so in, you know, in that kind of probably 15 to 40, 50 feet, -2 is perfect. -2, if you get too high in this, you can see things better, but you see all the static come in. You get lots of static, and it kind of masks out your fish. Sure, you might see more fish, but it just doesn't give you a clearer picture. So anywhere from -2 to 0 is a pretty good offset for auto sensitivity. The other big one is auto contrast. Again, if you go too low a setting, you get total washout. So again, just tweak it until you get rid of all that static and you can see the fish. So again, 10 to 12 is my ideal. You know, in this kind of depth, the deeper you go, the higher those numbers you want. So again, with this auto sensitivity offset, -2 all the way up to 0 is pretty good. And again, you get a real nice picture, and the auto contrast, you know, kind of in that 10 to 12 range. Now the biggest thing is when you get shallow. So this is now for less than 10 feet. I might move in and show everybody, but in less than 10 feet, you get a lot of static. So let's move in and we'll show everybody what you actually get when you go less than 10 feet. But this is good, you know, these kind of settings are for general use, and you really get to see the fish moving around. So now we've moved into, you know, around 10 feet of water. I want to show everybody the differences when you go shallow. The majority of the time, we're fishing anywhere from 12 to 40 feet. You know, we're looking at the edges, so I'm always in forward mode. Forward mode, I say I use it 95% of the time. Sometimes when we're deep line chronometering or sending something down deep, 50, 60 feet, you know, we'll go in down mode and watch the fish swim under the boat or within that span. But forward is the majority. And when you get shallow, what happens is if you keep the same settings, you get a lot of static. So I'm going to just show everybody here on the screen. I'll just move my arm so I'm actually in the right zone. And here it is here. So now you can see all the static you get. So those are the exact same settings I have in you know, 10 plus, 15 plus feet of water. So all you do is you got to go down the menu, and these again are the only two things you have to tweak. So auto sensitivity offset, to get rid of all the static, you go negative, more negative, and that will clear it up. You can even go right to -10. That's as low as it goes. Then I go down to my auto contrast offset and I jack it up. So until I just get rid of most of that static. Now, if any fish are moving through the zone, especially when we're fishing the weeds, you know, we're using shrimp in really shallow water, you will see the fish cruise along here. If there's fish in shallow water and you're shallow water chronometering, you will see the fish in these zones on those settings. So again, in shallow water, more negative on the auto sensitivity offset and more positive on the auto contrast offset. Don't change anything else. Oh, one other thing you got to change is the downrange. Again, so you can see I've modified the downrange so I can see the bottom. So always get it so that your bottom is just showing. You can put that on auto, but what happens is in auto mode, it's not the best thing because it'll show you a weird range. Like if you go right down and we put it in auto, it will get really staticky and it doesn't move well. I find it doesn't really bounce well in auto. So again, the best is just dial it in manually to get your depth. So there I am, I've got the bottom there, it's perfect. And then I go and adjust my auto sensitivity offset and my auto contrast offset. So again, just to recap, my majority of time, I'm on -2 for my auto sensitivity offset, and I'm around 10 to 12 on my auto contrast offset, except in shallow water. So 10 feet and lower, jack those up and down, and when you get out deeper, you can keep them the same because you'll be dialed in. I tell you, these colors and everything else really gets it dialed in. The last thing I want to review is when I'm scanning. So I've actually got my Minn Kota electric, and I'm just puttering along, and I've got my arm. So I'll show this to everybody, actually the full Mega Live setup. We'll show you how I have it set up on the boat. That'll be a separate pro tip we'll probably do next week. But there's my arm, and you know, it's a pivotal arm. So I can pivot this arm and check all the different areas. You know, it's on a Canon mount, but I'll go through that with everybody and show you that exact setup, and you can really get an idea. So when I'm scanning, so now I'm scanning that shoreline. The only thing I'm going to do is, as I scan this shoreline in the lake, I'm just going along and I'm looking forward about 60 feet. I can increase that to 100, but I like 60. Is all I'm going to do is just modify my depth as I go. So you hit menu, you keep it on downrange, and I'm just going to make sure my downrange is always very close to the bottom, like that. And then I can see the fish. Like there's a guy there, and I'll see the depth the fish are at. There's another guy down deep, and you see where they are. So once you start seeing fish, you know you can anchor up and catch them. Like there's some guys right on the top. There's some fish feeding right on the top, which is very cool. So just keep modifying as you scan. Modify your downrange, move in and out, and find the depth those fish are feeding at. You'll see a majority of fish feeding in one zone, and then you can key on it. And that's all I do. We just zip along. Just in this kind of mode, I'm seeing a lot of fish feeding up top, which is good. So we'll probably go in shallow water and give it a try. But that's the best way. And just keep, again, modifying your downrange only, just so you keep in tune with the bottom. If you go too far, you know, if you go way, way far, it just really dampens it. It really, if you put an auto, that's the kind of picture you get, and I don't like that. You don't get an idea what's going on. I like to always see what kind of range I'm in. So just keep modifying that, keep the depth consistent to the bottom, and there's a bunch of fish in here feeding in shallow water. So that's great. Then I'll go into my settings, and if they are in shallow water, I'll tune it just to get the perfect picture so I can see them. It's such a great instrument. So those are my ideal setups for the Mega Live. Again, you might want to tweak a few things, but I've found, and I played with this, me and Brian have played with this a lot. You know, we've tried a lot of different settings, and we found everything I showed you, especially for fishing our BC lakes, anywhere from 6 feet, you know, 4 to 6 feet, all the way down to 60, even 80 feet. These settings are ideal. So save yourself some time. Go to those settings and just tweak the ones I told you about. Once all the other ones are set, you only got to play with a few just to get it dialed in, and then you're catching fish. And you know, the other thing is, this is a tool. Remember, this is a tool, a very educational tool to find out where the fish are feeding and how they're fishing, and it can get you dialed in a hurry. Like I said, sometimes I can actually see my indicator or my swivel and my fly if I get it dialed in at like 20 feet and see the fish refuse that fly. If I get 2 or 3 refusals, I'm changing flies. It will help you catch fish, but it's not going to catch the fish for you. It just gets you in the zone, shows you the fish activity, how they're feeding, and the zone they're in. So it betters your chances, but you still got to have the right flies and the right technique to catch the fish. I hope everybody enjoyed this. If you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. I've got some more pro tips coming up, and there's some pretty cool ones. You know, we're actually getting into the dark side of fly fishing, which I'm going to show everybody in some in these summer months, summer doldrums, when you got to go deep. Hey, sometimes you got to, like my grandson says, sometimes you got to put on the big ball. No, put on the big ball and go deep, and we'll show you some of that coming up. So take care, conserve waters. We'll see you next time we take you sport fishing on the fly.